ever made in my personal life. Thanks for being here, Creative LUCA or Luca. All right, so I'm going to get started. This video is called From What Would Jesus Do to Woo Woo Jesus Dude. And that pretty much sums up my spiritual life trajectory. If you know me and you see me, chances are I'm probably still rocking my old school WWJD bracelet with a bracelet of the Lord's Prayer right underneath it. And that is because most of my life has been about trying to know what the heck is up with this Jesus dude. And when I was a little kid, I was raised in Christianity. If you look at my past posts and everything, you know I've been wrestling with Christianity a lot in my life. But I'm not wrestling anymore. And I just thought about this a minute ago that all of my life I've been trying my best to be a Christian, but I don't think I ever was a Christian until now. Now I'm a freaking Christian. And it took me not being a Christian to be a Christian. And I'm going to explain why. So I was raised Black church, but mostly kind of that fundamentalist, evangelical, more conservative type, and progressively went to more stricter expressions of Christianity that I eventually came to understand was deeply informed by institutional racism, slavery, patriarchy, misogyny, and all of those things inside the Black church. And I don't mean it in a negative way, but unconsciously perpetrated by Black ministers because they preached out of a tradition that was a slavery mindset of what it meant to be a Christian. And we would hear in church that we weren't worthy, we didn't deserve God's love, we were filthy sinners, we were filthy rags, all these other things. And then somehow it was supposed to still be good news. And as a kid, who my father left, my granddad died, I was stuck in the house with a very religious grandma, super religious grandma, focused on the family, 700 Club, all those things. And my mom, my grandmother was a widower. My mom was divorcee. She had a sick younger son, my little brother. And I was in this pressurized system where my only outlet was church, my only way of connecting to something deeper, to think that there was some way for my burdens to be held was through this idea of this guy named Jesus. And so at 6 years old, after fussing with God because God took my dad and my granddad, I gave my life to Christ, as you call it. And I took it seriously. I took it seriously, probably way too seriously. I acted like I was 50 when I was 5 or 6 years old. That being said, I took it seriously and I took the lickings for it. I took the abuse from kids. I got joked. I got picked on. I walked around trying to give people Bibles. I was like sold out for Christ, as you would say. I went through the mall handing out flyers, telling everybody they were going to go to hell, but thought I was saving them. Used to pray that everybody would get saved. All these other things. And I was sincere as a mug. And yet, time and time again, I kept running into these roadblocks of this like desire to stay stuck. And my soul longed for liberation. And so I studied and I studied and I tried to show myself approved that the scriptures say. And then time and time again, I kept hitting these walls. And it was from my fellow Black Christians in these systems where I would say, hey, don't you think this is wrong? Don't you think this isn't right? Don't you think that it's saying this? And it was always pointing towards our liberation, but we didn't want to be free. We just didn't. I don't know why, but we didn't. And I heard all these negative things, no offense to them, because I know they meant well, but they said a lot of negative things that kept us entrenched in a colonized mindset. Our minds were colonized by white Jesus, and we did not know who we were. And I said stuff like that in church, like, if we think God is a white dude, aren't we going to be aspiring to try to be this guy? And psychologically, didn't matter because we were stuck. We were stuck. And then everywhere I went, I saw the same thing perpetrated and perpetuated time and time again. Until I got asked to leave an all Black church because of me saying things that they thought weren't right, that were from the Bible. Doesn't matter. I ran through people through this a whole bunch of times. But finally, I've come to a place in myself and in my inner being where I can live from a place that's full of liberation. And that's all I'm about, is liberation. And I actually am now working in a Unity Spiritual Center. And if I were to use the old language that I was taught when I was growing up, someone prophesied over me a long time ago that I was going to end up in a Unity church. And I didn't even know what a Unity church was. But they said to me, not in the prophecy in the black church way, but a woman who knew me, who was Jewish actually, who said to me, I know you say you're a Christian. I was wearing this big old cross. And she was like, she said, you just don't strike me as a Christian. And I was like, what? Why don't I strike you as a Christian? Because to myself, I'm a Christian. And she said, you just are too open hearted. You're too loving. You're too this. And I would be like, that's how Jesus is. And I'm trying to follow. I'm trying to be an imitator of Christ. And then she said, no, you don't seem like a Christian to me. When I think of Christian, I think all these negative, scary things. And you just don't seem like that. And then she told me, you know what? You'd probably be better in unity. I didn't know jack about unity. So I just said, okay, because there was nothing else I could say to it. But what ended up happening is I went to seminary, became a regular Christian minister, went through all these channels. But along the way, previous in my life, I met people who were in this New Thought movement. One was this woman named Barbara King, who I met when I was working at this the Association for Research and Enlightenment, the Edgar Cayce Foundation, which I just stumbled, walked in, didn't know anything about it, got hired while I was there trying to sell a book that I had written, got hired there. And this is going to be interesting in a minute. I got hired there. I ended up meeting this woman, Barbara King, who's a black, 6 foot tall minister in this kind of New Thought tradition who tried to mentor me. And I took her friendship, but I chose not to go in her spiritual path and stayed more aligned with the Christian traditions that I knew. Went through that. Then while in seminary, I met Carlton Pearson, who's well known for being a famous Pentecostal bishop who had this awareness that there was no hell and God loved everyone. And he came into my life. And then we had similar backgrounds religiously, and we had both been asked to leave our churches, but I still was in the normal Christian tradition. But Carlton and I became friends, and we talked about all his ideas and thoughts for over a decade. And I was just like, well, that's great, and all the New Thought things that he shared with me. And I studied also, but then just said, hey, but I'm still going to stick to what I know, this Christian thing that I know. And I did that. And eventually Carlton died. And one thing led to another. I decided I couldn't be a minister anymore for different reasons. Went into this field of trying to bring people together across differences and teaching DEI and all this other stuff, and taught DEI at a Unity church. Hey, Frank. Taught DEI at this Unity church that I'm at right now. In 2022, I did their DEI training. 3 years and some later, they just asked me to speak on Father's Day because they wanted a male's voice. Within a few months, all the DEI things happened in the world. My organization didn't have the funding it had before. And then I came here on board part-time. And it was crazy because all those years ago, someone told me that I seemed like I would be in a Unity church. So I said, wow, this is crazy. This happened, right? So then I'm taking a Unity basics class here because I'm new to Unity. And I'm watching a video. And in my talk I mentioned meeting Barbara King all those years ago. I go in this Unity class after service. Who's on the video? Barbara King, who has passed on. Then a few people later, I hear the voice that I recognize is Carlton Pearson's voice, who's also passed on. And something in my spirit was like, bro, this is where you're supposed to be. They came into your life. They set this stage for you. They told you that you belonged in this path. And as much as I resisted, because I got a Jonah spirit, I resisted it and still ended up here anyway. And the other day we did a kind of thing where we let go of burdens. And I said I was going to let go of my Jonah spirit. My spirit that when something calls me to something, I try not to go. And then I get dragged there anyway. And finally, I find myself here. And earlier today, we were handing out these cards. When people try to ask us to describe unity, sometimes it's hard. Like some people call it practical Christianity. Some people will call it metaphysical Christianity. Some people would not call it Christianity at all, but call it a syncretistic faith that embraces the gifts of all traditions. But what I've known and experienced here is that the fullness of who I believe Christ is welcome here. And Christ that I experience is one who loves all life, all beings, and lives from a place of oneness, lives from a place of knowing that we are one with all our neighbors, all our brothers and sisters throughout time, throughout space, throughout dimensions, throughout whatever. We are all one. And that if we can live from that oneness, then we experience life as it truly is. And there are so many scripture passages that align with that. And there's also the scripture teaching in Hebrews that says that for all of our lives, we are slaves to sin because of the fear of death. And sin means missing the mark. It's not like you're a bad person. Nah, nah, nah. It's you miss the mark. And all of our lives, we miss the mark because of fear. And the Bible also teaches that perfect love casts out fear, and that fear is not our inheritance. And one of the prayers of Paul was that we might be able to comprehend the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, and we might be able to know that the height and the depth and the width and the breadth and all these things, the multidimensionality of this love, so that we can be filled with all the fullness of God. That's in the Bibles that nobody reads. And at this stage in my life, I am so tired of and frustrated, or at least I was until a few minutes ago, with people who say that they are Christians, and maybe they think they are. I thought I was until now. Now I know that I am. But they teach fear. They teach hate. They teach love. They teach separation. They teach everything that does not match who Christ is. And then they stand up and call themselves Christians, and they bastardize the tradition. And it tore me apart for a long time, but now I'm healed because I no longer accept the bastardization of the teachings of Christ in any form that denies the humanity of anyone. Now, people can keep calling themselves Christians. It's none of my business. I'll say they're bad Christians if they are. I'll say they do not know what they're talking about, and they're ignorant Christians if they are Christians and they think that they can treat people like crap. They think they can abuse humanity. They think that they can be any kind of way and say that it's coming from love. I deny that. I kick the dust off my feet for anyone like that because it's terrible and it's untrue. And yet, we're all on a journey, right? So I don't know where it's leading people. I was raised in these traditions. I'm not in these traditions anymore. So maybe those traditions are the portals that people have to go through until they decide that they want to treat people the way that they want to be treated, that they will learn how to get the log out of their eye before they tell somebody there's a speck in theirs. Doesn't mean that you don't tell them there's a speck in theirs, but you get the log out of your eye first. And maybe the journey that I've been on been a journey of removing the log from my eye so that I can see clearly. Maybe it's all those things. But what I do know is for the first time in my life, I can tell you that for what Christian means to me, that's what I am. Maybe I'll be completely rejected by all the Christians of America who think that Christian means you are exclusive, you hate people, you want to convert people, you want to try to do conversion therapy on people who are discovering themselves, you want to create harm, you want to abuse the immigrant, you want to abuse women, you want to abuse children, you want to take money and just love it more than you love anything in life and still call yourself Christian even though you are full of lies. And the Bible will tell you that if you ever read it, go for it. You can have it. And then there's where I am now. Hi, Lisa. This is where I am now, which is living from love. And so now I've gone from the evangelical, what would Jesus do? And people used to be like, why do you still wear that bracelet, even though you come in like increasingly more progressive and embracing everybody? Don't seem really Christian. And I was like, I don't know. But then I said, you know what? Maybe it means woo woo Jesus dude. And so now I'm a woo woo Jesus dude. I'm a spiritual person who believes that life is here to love and to discover that we are not bound, we are not conditioned, we are not limited. We just might experience ourselves that way, but that's not who we are. That we have the capacity to love all beings. We have the capacity to be healers. We have the capacity to be peacemakers. We have those capacities. Whether we practice them or not, it's up to us, but it's not that we can't do it. It's not that we can't create a world where every human being can thrive. We can choose not to do it, but we can do it. It's not that we can't look at our neighbor and say, that is a part of me. That person is a part of me that I don't yet know, and choose to love that person, because we can do it. We can choose not to do it, but we can do it. We have those capacities. We have infinite possibilities that we have not yet even tapped into. And I stand on the precipice of this awareness after 44 years of studying Jesus, trying to understand Jesus, trying to understand how we've twisted the story. All these things have brought me to this place that I'm not giving up Jesus, but I guess I'm woo-woo now. I guess I'm vibrational frequency. I ain't into the crystals, but whatever it is, if it lets me love, then that's what I'm a part of. And that's what I encourage. And that's who I want to be around. And for those people who think that because I'm not a hater, I can't be a Christian, well, I love you. What are you going to do about it? You can't stop me from loving you. But you can't stop me from telling you that you're full of shit when you're full of shit, because you are. And you know you are. I've talked to many people who have claimed to be Christians. I've seen many people. It's like crazy how many people that the first person you find on the internet that has committed something they accuse someone else of is someone who taught Sunday school, was a pastor, and swore that they were a born again Christian. I don't know what you were born into, but it sure wasn't the love of Christ. So I don't know what to say about that. All I can say is there's grace for you, but if you can't receive that grace, if you don't give that grace to others. And so this is the place that I'm coming from. And now what I want to share is at the Unity Spiritual Center where I'm working right now, we just started handing out these cards because I think it's hard for people to explain the love that they feel in this kind of space. It's hard for them to explain how they can have faith and not be boxed by the strictures of dogma and all of these other things, but they can still love each other. They can still be on a journey. They can still follow the teachings of Christ if that's how they prefer to do it, and still honor a person that's Hindu. They don't, it's hard to talk about. So we have 10 ways that we're inviting people to talk about, which I'm going to share here. It's the top 10 reasons to come to Unity Columbine Spiritual Center, but also top 10 reasons to be who you are on your journey. Our starting with number 10, but I guess there's no in particular order, is no one tells you what to believe. We don't do dogma. We explore ideas and let you decide what resonates. Yeah. And even in the Bible, it says work out your own salvation. You know what I mean? So, but here we are telling people, you got to think this, you got to believe this, you got to do this, you got to flip this, you got to get out of here, man. Stop telling people what to do. Let them figure it out for themselves and live this life in the universal school that we're all a part of. Guilt and shame didn't make the guest list. You're not broken. You never were. Full stop. Absolutely. We are not broken. We are not broken. And we're not fallen. We may be forgetful. We might forget the reality of who we are. We might have issues that happened in our lives that make us forget who we are because maybe we weren't loved by our parents the way we wanted to be loved. Maybe we had a relationship that broke up, all kinds of things. But it still doesn't mean we're broken because we're spirit, and spirit can't be broken. And think of spirit like air. If I had a sword and I chopped a piece of wood, yeah, you see the scar in the wound because it's damaged, right? But it can still grow and heal. If I'm chopping water, it divides the water, but then that's like the mind. It's malleable. You just splash through it. It's going to settle if you let it go and let it sit still. It will calm back down. And then the spirit is like the air. Doesn't matter what you do to try to chop it, shoot it, do whatever. Nothing happens to it. That's the reality of who you are. You are not broken. Full stop. You never were. Your life is the curriculum. No memorization required. Real life counts as homework. Your life is your curriculum. Who I know many times I try to teach people things and they wanted to figure it out for themselves. That's what it's like to be human. Even when I had a little kid, my kid was little, I try to do something, she go, by myself. Because in her own life, she wanted to learn and her life was her curriculum. And she might pay attention to things that I do, the examples I might put before her or her mom or other things. But ultimately, we learn from our own life. So your life is the curriculum. We talk about responsibility, not blame. Empowerment feels a lot better than self-judgment. So we don't blame people. We take responsibility. We might hold people responsible and accountable, but that's only to their benefit so that they can learn and grow and become better, but not to blame. And blaming some people that may have not existed for eating a piece of fruit thousands of years ago, even though it's probably millions if it really was that, is just slow. Like, how you gonna make? No one does that. We wouldn't blame what we do on our grandparents because they're too far away, or our great grandparents. So why are you gonna blame it on some idea of Adam and Eve, which is a myth? Come on now, no blame. We just learn and grow from our experiences and become empowered, and that's what it's about. Inner guidance is our go-to authority. We trust intuition, awareness, and the wisdom within. Of course, the Bible even teaches that God is within you. So if you're looking for God and God's within you, but you're looking everywhere outside except for within yourself, then you're not even living from that Bible teaching. So it makes perfect sense to say inner guidance is our go-to authority, because the indwelling Christ, the indwelling God, is a part of the indwelling Buddha. If that's your jam, it's all a part of who we are. So learn from that. You don't have to pretend to be quote unquote spiritual. Come curious, skeptical, joyful, messy, just come as you. And shouldn't it be that way? When we go to school, we don't think everybody's supposed to be on the same page. We're a place to learn. You show up as yourself. You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not. It's just being in community, learning, growing, making mistakes, trying new things. That's life. And this is an invitation to just be in life with other people. We believe change is possible. What's been learned can be unlearned. What's been created can be recreated. Absolutely. I mean, if anything, the spirit or God, the divine, is an artist. An artist can create infinitely. We are composed of the same stuff. We are infinitely creative. We can create change. We can rebuild. We can remodel. We can redesign. And if we can do that in the material world, how much more can we do it in the spiritual world? That's who we are. But if we don't understand that about ourselves, we'll keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results, which is what we call insanity. Self-love is not selfish here, it's foundational, because healed people tend to heal the world. I never read that before, but I wrote a song one time that said, hurt people, heal, heal. And that's the essence of this. And if you don't love yourself enough to allow yourself to be healed, what good can you be for the world? And so this is an invitation in this space, and just in an awareness for anybody watching this video. Love yourself because you are loved. Allow yourself to be healed because you're worthy of it. And then just live your healing out into the world, and it will radiate, and people will be healed by your presence. Okay. It's serious work without taking ourselves too seriously. Laughter is a spiritual practice. I said in a previous video that when we laugh, we release stuck breath. There's a reason why the formula for comedy is tragedy plus time. It's because we all go through things, but then we also can heal through those things. And we, through mindfulness and spiritual awareness and meditation, we can collapse time and heal sooner and laugh sooner. And we just learn its work. But also, yes, if we don't take ourselves too seriously, we find that we're a lot more resilient than we sometimes know ourselves to be. So laugh. And then finally, it's not about escaping life. It's about living it consciously and taking what you discover here out into the world. And that's what Christianity should always be about. That's why the original founder people called it practical Christianity. Christianity that you can put into practice. That's what we're here for. We're here to learn, to grow, and to share. We're just like anything else. We're like any tree. We're like a tree. It grows, it bears its fruit, and it gives its fruit, which is keeps more trees coming, but it also nourishes and feeds. And we, each and every one of us, we ourselves are a tree of life. We are a tree of life. And when we learn and grow and are nurtured and nurture and allow ourselves to expand and release the gifts that we've been blessed with and grace the world, other people are nourished and other people can grow. Other people can heal. And we can do that for each other. And if we see each other as a part of an interconnected whole, of an energetic matrix that it just holds all life, and we trust that and we live from that, and each one of us becomes a finite expression of the infinite consciousness and intelligence of the universe, and that's always blossoming, then we become like Christ. And that's what the Bible tells us too, that we're supposed to be imitators of Christ, that Christ Jesus was a firstborn of many brethren and many sisters. All of that is scriptural, all that's in the Bible, and a lot of our churches don't teach it. But at least for me and my journey, I choose to surrender to it. I choose to live by it. And it's taken me 40 something years, almost 45 years to come to this place to finally feel like a real Christian. After all these years of practicing, I feel like I'm graduated into the Christianity for me, which is manifested at Unity. And so that's where I am. It is what it is. I can receive whatever judgment that comes for it for not being what I used to be, but none of us are what we used to be. And hopefully who we've become is better. And I feel myself as being better. And I've been through a lot in the past few months, a lot of grief, a lot of death, and all those things. And I can say that if I were in any of those places that I used to be in and I went through the same thing, I would not feel as supported, as joyful, as filled with the belief in infinite possibilities as I feel right now. And it would be irresponsible of me as someone who has followed the teachings of someone who was and is love to not share what I've learned and where I've been growing. So I appreciate everybody that's on this video. I love y'all. If y'all want to share it with other people because it's fed you, then please do. And I just want to say that you are worth everything. If the whole world had to be created just for you to be here right now and to experience yourself as the fullness of who you are, it would be, the world would do it, God would do it, the universe would do it, because each and every one of us is worth it. And our work as people who know we're worth it is to remind other people that they are, so that we can all live free and create free and be the love that emerged us into being. So this is a Woo Woo Jesus dude signing off. Thanks for being here. Peace.